I'd like to welcome you to our session. My name is Beth Welch. I'm the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at Western New England College of Pharmacy. First disclaimer, I am not a technology guru. I'm an educator and an administrator that likes technology. I have a great group of people that work with me that have the technology end of it. A little bit about Western New England. We are a private university in Western Massachusetts out near Springfield. The university has about 4,000 full-time undergraduate students. There are 5 colleges, law school, engineering, arts and sciences, business, and the College of Pharmacy. Full enrollment is about 5,500 if you're talking about graduate students as well. College of Pharmacy is relatively new. We, in fact, graduated our first class this past May, so it was very exciting for that to occur. We have 300 students in our College of Pharmacy. There are 75 students in each class. Again, we just started about 6 years ago. We graduated our first class this past year. So today what we are going to talk with you about is a little bit about how we decided to use technology in our program, what types of technology we use, and the process by which we went about adopting the process or the program that we have. So I think, why use personal computing devices in the curriculum? As an educator, I can tell you lots of reasons why we want to use technology in the classroom. Some of them are for engagement. We know that engaging students and having an active learning process improves learning. Collaboration. Teamwork and collaboration is huge in education. In the medical field now, it's all about teamwork. Teaching students how to work in teams and collaborating using technology improves the educational process. Technology also can help in the evaluation or assessment of student learning. So using personal devices to assess their learning is also beneficial. As far as preparation for a career, our college is to prepare pharmacists. Technology is a huge part of their future and their profession for use for medical records. They're all electronic these days. They need to be able to maneuver through them. Informational resources, everything is at their hands, so they need to be comfortable using technology. When I went to school, I am a pharmacist. When I went to school, you know, the way we got our information is we went to the library and pulled a book off the shelf and photocopied it. Now they have everything at their fingertips. So using technology in the learning process helps prepare them for their future career. Finally, for licensing exams, all of their board exams are done on electronic devices, so we needed to prepare them for their assessment. Now, a little bit on the administrator end, it's marketing value. It's sexy, all right? Part of the administration is we wanted a program that was kind of cutting edge. We wanted to attract learners to our program. We kind of had to have something that was a little bit more innovative than some of the current programs in pharmacy. So adopting a personal computing device program within our college was something that students were interested in getting involved in, and that was the sexy part of our program. So I want to pass it along to Thomas Moore. He is our multimedia specialist, and he's going to talk about what types of technology we use in our classroom.
Thanks, Beth. So I help out kind of just bridging some of the technology to the students. I manage a lot of the systems that we use, and I kind of wanted to just share technically some of the technologies that we use. So the question is just how much do we use? Is it worth it to have a device for all of our students to use these things? So first up, we use a program called Echo 360, which is a complete lecture capture system. So this is going to record all of the lecture slides, anything that's happening on the screen for the professor. It's also going to capture their voice, and then there's an additional screen which can also capture their face, or if they're moving around in the classroom at the same time. This system stores all of that data online in a database that the students can access anywhere. And I'm going to be kind of spitting out a lot of different forms of technology. If you sit in one of these seats, there's a list of all of these. So just for your personal reference afterward, we've included links so you can do some more research on your own. We also needed a system for taking notes. Now, you can say, well, what about just pen and paper? Well, the cool thing that we've had is we use OneNote. which allows our students to handwrite notes. It allows them to import PowerPoint presentations that the professors themselves give ahead of time, and it allows them to back it up, which is probably the most important thing. So at the end of all of their schooling, at the end of the 4 years, they actually have files upon files organized by class through the semesters of all of the notes that they've taken during their entire program here. They don't just have a physical copy, and a lot of students do prefer writing, so that's something to consider. Is our pen good? Are students going to enjoy writing it? Is this going to actually be helpful for them in addition to just a pen and paper model? We also have, like Beth had mentioned, we need to be able to administer exams. So all of our students take their exams online. We needed a system to be able to do that, so they can't just open up a browser, go to Google, and just answer the question from there. So we use a system called Lockdown Browser, which lets us do that. We needed a way of unified communication. So in the professional world, you all know this, we're attached to our phones. It's kind of the way that we organize our life. It's the way that we communicate with everybody else. Well, we wanted to bring this into just for all of our learners to be able to start experiencing and practicing unified communication. So all of the meetings that they go to are done through Outlook. If they have a session with a professor or a meeting, it's set up in an Outlook calendar. It allows us to then quickly communicate to them as well, and it allows us to see who's attending meetings, and so it's really helpful for us and to have everybody on the same page. And Scott will talk a little bit more about, what does it look like when a student says, well, I didn't get my email. Well, there's really no excuse. If everyone is using a single type of unified email on Outlook, everyone's set up at once. We can do that in one setting. They get all of their emails, their calendar updates, and they're set for the semester. We also have a large simulation aspect to our program as well, where we create simulated case environments for our pharmacy students, which is relatively new. But what this is it allows us to have these simulation mannequins that are they're high fidelity mannequins, and the students will come in, and these mannequins are set up with SCEs, which are different case scenarios depending on what the learning objective is for that week or that day. So the students will come in, and so we have these mannequins, but not only do we have the mannequins, but I think, let's see, we have the mannequins themselves, but we have a system for recording all of the mock case scenarios that the students will partake in. So they'll interact with the mannequin as if it were a real situation. We'll record it video. We'll record also the vital signs for the patient. So if they're administering saline or something like that, we can see how the trends are being recorded, so then they can look back, they can evaluate how they did, down to, they can nitpick and say, you didn't wash your hands before you came up and interacted with the patient. Little things like that gives the students, the learners, a very real experience before just graduating from school and then hopping into the real thing. So we also have classroom presenter tools. We have lots of these smart podium PCs, which allow professors to write on the screen, but then also those will integrate with the computers that the students are using. One of the big things we have is a web-based medical record system, which is really important for us to start integrating into the program, because this is what the students are going to be using when they get out of school. So, in a lot of the traditional schooling methods, they'll get a piece of paper with all of the information for the student. Well, that's not real life. In the future, all they're going to see are actual computer records, not pieces of paper. We also have active participation tools, so we use Turning Point for that. So in a classroom, their devices can be a responder. It can make answers for any question that the professor is asking at any time during the class. So that really brings back into just class participation. So at any point they can say, okay, what do you think about this? Everyone clicks a button and gives their answer for it. And then we can see the answers in real time and see where the class is at. And then the professor can say, okay, we really don't understand this. Let's talk a little bit more about it. Or, hey, look, everybody's on the same page. Let's continue. Lastly, one of the biggest things that we want to do is to prepare our learners for a world that utilizes technology heavily. So you guys are here because technology is a huge component of higher education, or any education. And as we move forward, that's not going to lessen. And so we want to prepare our students to be able to go into a workforce, a work environment that's going to heavily utilize technology. There's really no avoiding it. They're going to be looking at their smartphones a lot. They're going to be using a tablet computer, regardless of where they're working as a pharmacist. And so all of this is really to help transition them into the professional world. But it comes with lots of challenges, so I'm going to hand it back to Beth, and she's going to talk about some of the challenges we have to face.
All right, so we've discussed a little bit about the benefits of using technology in the classroom and in the educational process. Thomas has outlined some of the various technologies we use in the classroom. But as an educator, I can tell you sometimes using all the technology in the classroom can sometimes become a hindrance to the learning process. How many here have been in the classroom when technology hasn't worked? All right. How many have, 10 o'clock at night, you think you're going to have an online webinar conference, and Susie out in California didn't do an update on her computer, or she has a virus or a firewall, and you spend the next half hour trying to maneuver Susie on how to get what she needs in order to enter the web conference, while the other 20 people in the classroom are waiting. It's frustrating. We all have probably some of these tales from the crypt of when technology really didn't work for us. Some of the reasons that technology may not work is students have outdated versions. They didn't do an update. They have a virus. Their computer is incompatible with whatever application we're using. They forgot to charge their computer and it died in the middle of class. So there's all of these reasons by which a personal device can fail within a classroom, online or in a face-to-face classroom. So what we decided to do is to adopt a process which limited these issues that can become a hindrance to the learning process. And Scott Sherman, who is our Divisional Administrator of Technology at our College of Pharmacy, really has piloted and taken the lead on the process by which we adopt our personal computing device. So, Scott.
Thank you, Beth. So it's pretty exciting what we're doing, and sometimes you don't know if what you're doing is meaningful and having success until you actually get back feedback from the students. So we had better than 95% positive response to our tablet program. So that's really good. It's nice to get good feedback from the students. So we decided that the best way to go with this is to have the same technology for every student. There's a big movement that's been going on for the last several years about this bring your own device. And if you can kind of envision with me, how many of you have left your hotel, left a conference, come into work and say, oh shoot, I left my power adapter at home. And I don't have very much juice left in my battery, right? Well, at least in our situation, a student can encounter that. They come from their dormitory or from a conference or something, and they come in to see us, and we have spare parts. The other thing about having a consistent piece of hardware is that, for instance, this device right here, if I were to accidentally drop this, I don't recommend any of you do that when you come up later to look at these, but if I were to accidentally drop this and damage the screen or any part of it, all of my student workers know where the 8 really small screws are located on the bottom of this. And by the way, 4 of those 8 are hidden. And so they can take this one apart, take a spare one apart, and switch the hard drive out of this one, put it into the other one, and the student is up and running in 15 minutes. Our goal is actually to have a student up and running in 15 minutes no matter what the situation is. That's not always possible due to some of the virus activity, but in most cases we can meet or exceed that expectation. Why? This is a doctoral program. Students don't have a lot of free time in between classes. It's not like undergraduate. In this program, boom, this class is over. Guess what? It's time to get to the next one. Time to get to the next one. They only have a lunch break, and then they go from like 8:30 until like 5 o'clock. So it's very difficult to not find that kind of time. If it takes longer than that, then it can actually impact their learning. So consistent hardware is very important. And then, of course, consistent software, as Dean Welsh had mentioned before, it's nice to know that everybody's got the software they need for the program. And they don't have to go to some lab somewhere. It's actually with them. It's mobile. Wherever they need it, whenever they want it, it's there. And briefly touched upon the OneNote. It's so nice when you have your stuff uploaded to OneDrive, you can get access to it with your phone or whatnot. It's in a cloud space. You're like, oh, gee, I wonder what that, oh yeah, let me look that back up. Or they can look at a lecture capture, something that they didn't quite understand. They want to hear it again, or they want to come back and they've got a quiz coming up next Tuesday. They want to hear that lecture again. They can do that. So having all that technology readily available, the other thing about OneNote, I'm just going to highlight that for another second because the search feature is so awesome. Because you can have your notebooks for 4 years worth in that one program, and you can search and research and get all that information that you want. Oh, shoot, that was 2 years ago. How am I going to find that piece of information? Oh, I just put in the word. And it searches and it brings it right up. So consistent hardware, consistent software, and because of that, I can capture an image for that device. And even in the worst case scenario of a major did any of you ever know or experience that virus, right? Not the one that just changes your homepage, but the one that encrypts all your data and encrypts any drives that are connected, including network shares. Did anybody experience that one? The crypto locker or one of its varieties? Okay? Those situations can be very rough. So here's a situation where with the imaging process, you can have somebody going very quickly. If you have to give them a loaner device, boom, they're familiar with the device. They may even know where the icons are. So it's really, the goal is that minimum downtime for their computer means maximum learning capability at the time. So what makes our process a little bit unique in my communicating with others in the field, and that's why I say, well, let me apply and see if we can present something here, is because we have the students involved in the selection process. Okay, I'm not, as a technology guru, right, I'm going to tell them what device. Well, you know what? Nobody knows the best about every device. And every device is going to have some problems. So what we do is, okay, I go out and I try to evaluate what are the 5 best devices available, and then I present those to the students who are going to be coming in as first-year students. And the way the program runs as well is that they are loaned a device for the first 2 years, and then they get a refresh for the second 2 years. So when they're leaving the university, they're leaving with a device that's 2 years old, and the goal is to have them leave with a 2-year-old device that's got 3 years of warranty, so they got an extra year of warranty when they leave. So they're leaving with all the information that they've garnered from their program, and they're leaving with a good device, and they're leaving with a device that is supportable, even though I will no longer be supporting them. They can dial 1-800-FUJITSU, 1-800 Lenovo, 1-800 HP, whatever might be the case. No, so the first round are on a fair market value lease. So they go back to the leasing company. Yeah. And then the second half are on a dollar buyout lease, and so they just buy it out for $1, change ownership. And by the way, that's an important point as well. For those of you thinking about a program, the fact that the students don't own the device until they graduate means I can support all that without any legal liability or consequence. So they don't own the device yet. So what I'd like for you to do is, if you would like to, we have on the chairs a couple of pieces of paper. Thomas had mentioned this one's got the links of different technologies that we're using. You may find some of those useful if you wanted to contemplate those. And also is a PC evaluation form and a pen and a magnet. I'd like you to come around, find one of the tables, and around the tables are 3 different devices. There actually are 3 winners of the past, including this year, previous year, and the year before that. I'd like you to evaluate these devices. On the form, you'll see which one. For instance, the first one is the Lenovo Yoga. But you don't have to evaluate these in order. And you'll see a bunch of different attributes. This kind of form is exactly what the students get. And they go through the process. They consider the screen clarity, screen size. They consider things like the keyboard. How does the touch feel for you? How about the touchpad? They evaluate what kind of ports are on it. They do all this kind of evaluation. And I'll tell you what, there's some gotchas. I'd like you to evaluate them first. There's some things that even after I evaluated it, and even after the students evaluated it, that turned out to be problematic areas for a particular device. And I may be able to have time to share some of that. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and find your spot and go through and evaluate. I'm just going to give you a few minutes. I do want to mention one thing. The Fujitsu is designed as what I might call it rip and go. Okay? When you go to reseat it on its keyboard dock, make sure that the button is down still and the orange is showing, or you won't be able to reattach it.
Change devices every year, depending on the incoming student.
Yep.
So you're supporting 3 different devices in a given.
Two devices, because of the. There's a really good question about how many devices do I have in the environment at any given time. I have 2 devices in the environment because the first year students keep that through the second year, and then the third year they get a new one. And based on that rotation, there'll be somebody who's a first year and somebody who's a third year who gets a new device because they've traded back the old one. So there's always 2 devices in the environment. It's a great question. Maybe like 2 more minutes if you could finish up. If you haven't looked at one of them and you really would like to, just go ahead and switch to that one. I'd like to just go over a few wrap-up kinds of things. It's always nice to not have to reinvent the wheel I can point out certain issues or certain things you should consider when you're looking at the devices. And for those of you into project management, it's always best to have your key stakeholders involved in the decision-making process as well. And I tell you, there's some things that like for instance, our current device in the environment is the Fujitsu Q704, and we also have some of the Lenovo Yogas deployed already because the students going from second to third year, we had adjusted from deploying that in August to doing that in May before they left, so they'd have the whole summer to get used to the new device. But with the Fujitsu, what I didn't recognize, and none of the students caught either, is that the power connection to it is a very thin tip. And the only one you could see that is the one up here. So if you wanted to see what I meant, you can stop up. And that is so thin that it easily gets stuck. So when you stick it in and then you're ready to unplug it, if you don't do that exactly right and carefully, you lose the tip inside and you got to use pliers and pull it out. Didn't happen during the evaluation of the device at all, but I've had maybe 10 of those out of 150, so it's not a huge number, but it's still kind of annoying and could happen potentially at any time to the other students. Also, the fact that it's a 2-piecer, that we found that it's having trouble as far as holding up to the constant redocking and pulling away and redocking and pulling away. We've had quite a lot of issues. I've had more issues with that one aspect and that mechanism not holding up than I had in all the years before it. If I combine all the issues of those 3 years, there was more issue with that one problem. With the HP, the biggest thing is the touchpad's kind of flaky a little bit, and the pen requires a battery, so it's not as precise as the Wacom, which Wacom uses pressure-based. It's got a piece of glass behind the resolution glass, and as you put pressure on it, that's how it works, and it can be very precise for doing things like chemical structures, any kind of real drawing that you need to do. You would not want one of the battery-operated options. One of the other things that originally in the beginning, I gave different size devices. So I would give a 10-inch, a 12-inch, and a 15-inch. I have found every year the students want the larger. They don't want the smaller. When I came into it, I was thinking, oh yeah, they want smaller, lighter. They don't. They're thinking, I got to type stuff. They want as big a keyboard, and they want as big of a screen as possible. And so there's different things that you'll find. I don't know if that's regionally specific, and I'm biased by the students that I'm getting, but that has been across the board. So I tried to bring 3 different devices. There were 3 winners. Interestingly enough, they were 3 different styles. One was a flipper back, bend over backwards. One was the rotate, and one was the tear and go. So we've had a chance to experience all 3 of those in the environment, and so I hope you went away. One of the goals was to not just the blah blah for an hour, but I wanted you to have a chance to just connect in, try the different technology, and see how it goes from there. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always be free to seek me out, email me, text me. Well, after you seek me out, I'll give you a number. But thank you for your time.